Films and Publications Amendment Act is a controversial piece of legislation. Members of, among others, the media and gaming communities have labelled it censorship law. Nonetheless, it was signed recently by President Ramaphosa and is due for promulgation. This video explains what you need to know about the Films and Publication Amendment Act and whether it applies to you. The Act caters for so-called network societies such as our own, where most of us are able to share information with thousands of people with a click of a button. The digitization of society has influenced how we define certain terms that are central to the Act, such as film, game, and publication. When you hear the word film, movies come to mind. Films now have a wider definition, which is a sequence of visual images that looks like a moving picture through whatever medium, be it online or offline. The word distributor refers to anyone who distributes films, games, or publications. It also includes commercial distribution and distribution through live streaming, social media, or the internet. Registering with the FPB is important if you're a distributor, as is submitting content for classification in terms of the Act. What does classification mean? The best example I have is on the back of a DVD. This is the Incredibles DVD, and on the back there is a triangle which says how old you need to be to view this film, as well as what you can expect. For example, sex, violence, nudity, and language. That's classification. Some games and films might be X-rated, and the Act provides for the legal distribution thereof. Firstly, the distributor must be registered with the Films and Publications Board. He must also be willing to guarantee that minors will not be able to access the X-rated footage he distributes. In addition to that, the age restriction and classification of the X-rated film must appear on screen throughout, and the same applies to games. In addition to that, users who want to access the X-rated games or films must first guarantee that they are 18 years or older. Lastly, such distributors are required to have a register where they log the details of those who access the X-rated footage. This will only be made available to the CEO of the Films and Publication Board if a court so mandates. The new bill decriminalizes the distribution of adult content both online and offline. If you want to distribute adult content, just make contact with the Films and Publications Board, because they will then give you a specific exemption which allows you to distribute these items without getting into trouble. Not all publications have to be submitted for pre-distribution classification. By publication, I refer to the works of, for example, bloggers, writers, artists, photographers, and those involved in the recording industry or movie making. It also refers to the works of computer software distributors. A publication will not necessarily have to be taken to the FPB for pre-publication or distribution classification. However, it will be necessary where a publication contains propaganda for war, incitement to violence, or hate speech. If you produce a publication that does not contain any of those elements, a member of public may still report it to the FPB for classification for whatever reason. If that happens to you, the best idea will be to comply. As with all new legislation, this Act has raised some valid questions, such as how will it be implemented practically in South Africa, especially considering we have 27 million web users. This is a question that only time will tell. Although the details and practicalities in this respect are not yet clear, we do know that members of the media who subscribe to the South African Press Code will not have to submit their content featuring propaganda for war, incitement to violence, and hate speech for classification prior to distributing it. The Act states that advertisers who subscribe to ASASA, the Advertising Standards Authority of South Africa, will be exempted from the Act's application in that they do not have to present their advertisements for classification prior to publication. However, ASASA has since ceased to exist and has been replaced by the ARB, the Advertising Regulatory Board. It is not yet clear how the Act is going to incorporate this switch and how it will affect advertisers.